What is going on, everybody? In this video, we are providing you a state of the market and stock picks for June 22nd, 2022. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, consider subscribing, as I do provide daily and weekly updates to get you prepared for the day and the week ahead. Now let's dive straight into this week's what is most crucial this week. It is a short week. We only have 3 more days left of the week, but what is really going to be important, we did have a very historical week, and it is being followed up with Powell tomorrow and Thursday. Now, clarification on my weekly update, I think I only provided perhaps the Wednesday or Thursday with the House or the Senate. I'm not sure which one I provided on that weekly update, so I do apologize for that. But tomorrow he is meeting with the Senate, and then on Thursday he's meeting with the House. And those are both tomorrow. He'll be meeting at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then on Thursday he'll be meeting with the House at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And these are going to be critical because they are essentially going to be attacking Powell and trying to pick his brain on why he made a 75-point basis move. Now, this is going to bring a lot of volatility into the market. It's going to bring a lot of fear in the market, considering that it's rattled Powell. And now it is going to start potentially bringing that fear back into the market in general, and what we see going forward from here. And so that is where we're sitting at, and what is really going to drive this market tomorrow. Now, the good thing is we did break back over that trend line. That was a concern of mine. But the problem is we should have gotten a bounce off this 200. We hit it and kind of grinded for 2 days and then bounced. I don't like the grind that we stayed down here for a little bit. This is, some people may call this a dead cat bounce. Again, these aren't dead cat bounces. When they briefly do these pops, you'll see dead cat bounces if something runs for multiple days and then drops very hard, very quickly, and then you get essentially a bounce around 50 to 75%, and then it just tanks more from that point. This is not that. This is purely just driven. This is just a support bounce is what we're looking at here on the weekly. Again, we have the 50 monthly we're trying to get through, so we have to be very careful going into tomorrow. Something I've talked about on the weekly update, if we do break these critical levels around the 36.47 and the 35.70, we are in for quite a downfall. A lot of people are predicting 3,200. Again, for me, you have to show me this thing needs to break. If we dive tomorrow because of Powell, and this is what's important about tomorrow, is you're going to be fielding a lot of very, very detailed questions on people trying to determine his mindset and where he's going and how bad he thinks it is. So he's going to get he's going to be put on the hot seat for the next 2 days. And again, every word that he says is there's going to be a lot of weight to it. If he, again, comes out and says, hey, if there's not going to be a recession, what's something we keep hearing, there's no recession, no recession, no recession. Again, they don't want to put panic in the market either. They don't want to be telling people, yes, there's going to be a recession, and then a recession happens. And normally it's hard to really tell that. You're not going to have an official recession until specific things hit, and before you can say officially, okay, well, we have been in a recession for the past couple of months. So that's kind of what's going on. You can't really just say, yes, we're in a recession. We very well could be in a recession, but you're not going to know until after the fact to get an official title of a recession. And I know there were some other people that came out today suggesting that, unemployment had to be at really high numbers compared to what it currently is for us to be in a recession. Again, I don't know how true that is. But being said, we're more worried about what Powell is going to say tomorrow and where that leads to tomorrow and Thursday. Again, he's going to be fielding all kinds of questions and be grilled for the actions he's taken. So it's going to be a very historical 2-day event. Again, one in the House, one in the Senate, and we'll see what goes from there. So currently we had kind of a bounce here. It's not the greatest of bounces, but it's definitely attempting. Right now we've Kind of determine the 100 points basis move is down here, roughly around the 36.56. And then the 75 points is roughly around the 38.50. Kind of gauging that's kind of where it's at. But since Powell's kind of been talking, or the market's kind of been feeling that the next move will be a 50-point basis move, we could potentially start pushing up a little bit. Again, we have a Q2 earnings will end of the month, and then we're going to be straight into earnings mode. But we have to get past a Powell, and this is what matters. So we could tank back down to this lower level. Again, I don't want to be grinding against this 200 weekly. We break this, we could be in some big trouble. We're going to start hitting panic levels at this level. Then when we limit downs, I don't know. It's been controlled to this point. But it really just depends on what Powell says. It could bring volatility. The market could go up tomorrow. We ultimately don't know. And again, if he's going to start talking just 75 points, maybe the market's just going to correct back to 75 and just hang out around 75 till we get the next bad news. Maybe it's a 100-point basis move. Then we'll revisit this level. But ultimately, we want to be holding that at 200. Normally, 200s, especially on higher time frames, are good reversal areas. So that's something to keep in mind. This could be the pivot. We head back up. But again, the longer we stay down here, we have to understand that the longer we play around this line, the more likely it's going to break, and we're going to go to the next level. And when you start getting this level, you're going to start hitting panic levels at this level, and then could potentially break into some real deep diving at that point. And again, once we break this, it's just sheer panic at that point. There's a lot of other things that are going into play. There's food shortages and stuff like that. They've been talking about the yen. The Japanese have been buying the bonds over there like crazy, trying to stabilize the bonds. So there's a lot of other different things that could be a catalyst for the downside that could take over as a black swan and make this thing really dive. To also understand that stuff like this is always going on, that the banks are always juggling to make something happen, and majority of the time they can pull it off some way, shape or form to keep it going. There's policies and everything else in place to help with that. So we do have to keep that in mind, but it's still always a black swan and can send us down even further. But we have to see critical level. It's very key to watch tomorrow on what's going to happen in Powell's meeting with the Senate and the House over the next 2 days. So with that being said, we can jump over to Bitcoin. Bitcoin, again, consolidating pretty well, holding the 20 right now. Again, I think this is really the market and Bitcoin are running in parallel at this point. I think, again, a lot of the underlying technology with crypto is also understanding that I think once the market starts to push, Bitcoin will rally just as in parallel. If the market does plummet, obviously this is going to drop below 20K. And it very well could, but we are at a strong support. So when Bitcoin diverges from the index, which I don't currently right now, I don't think it's going to happen just because of the way inflation is and everything else. You're not seeing a lot of movement in gold. Commodities have been kind of slowly holding. Once all that stuff starts running, it could be potentially. We could get a rally back to the upside, right? We have to again remember that we have earnings coming up, and I think that could be a catalyst to help push us back up. We just got to get over this hump and kind of see where the Fed is. Again, if the Fed is going to, if Powell says something wrong tomorrow, it may not matter, and it may break some critical levels and start hitting panic levels at that point. So that's something you have to keep in mind. You start hitting panic levels, again, nothing is going to make sense. It's just going to sell. So we will see from this point. But as for tomorrow, again, Tesla is a big one. There's a lot of really good news about Tesla coming out. Their factories are still producing great numbers. Again, they have their own ecosystem. There's a lot of positive to Tesla. And this is why I keep reiterating when this is like one of my primary picks for the upside when we do start to rally, because this is normally the one that does start to rally. We did break back above the 20 EMA, which is a gun sign. But how much further can we keep pushing is the question. Again, if something comes out, if Powell says something wrong tomorrow, this thing could tank and come right back down. But on the daily, now we have a breakout, right? And one thing I've been talking about, even though we do have a breakout, that doesn't mean anything. It could very well sink this thing back in. It has been holding very nicely around that 625, but on the daily candle, we haven't officially broke the 703. If this opens above 703, it could have a very bullish day. But then you're still playing with these other EMAs and other resistance lines you got to get through. So we could rattle around here, which could very well be what it is. Every time we have a breakout, we kind of just consolidate. We haven't had any massive, 75% retracement of that breakout. That really hasn't been going on lately. So more than likely, I think if this does break out, you might get some rattling around here before the next wave for the next earnings coming up, again, just around the corner. And again, that pre-earnings move is happening weeks out, where normally before it was only happening about a week or two out. Now it's happening a couple weeks ahead of schedule. And then because of just the way the Fed meetings fall and the actual earnings fall. So it'll be interesting to see and trying to catch this cycle. So I want to keep this one definitely on watch. Amazon, interesting one. Again, it's stock split. It's not moving the greatest since the split. Again, something always to keep in mind after a stock split, stocks don't move nearly as nice as they used to. But we will see. Again, I think this is the first one Amazon has had. So being said, it's not diluted as much as it could be. But again, you're still going to see a difference in the way it plays now than the way it did just a month ago. So I want to keep this one on watch, especially if we start selling a lot of retail, as it's definitely be taking a massive hit because of that. So I want to keep that on watch. Apple, again, technical wise, looks really bad. This level here, this 136 mark, it keeps rejecting off this. Again, it's a hard resistance. It's already attempted the second time today. It got rejected a little bit. If this can't open above that tomorrow, this thing could potentially start making another lower low here. Or potentially we might get a little bit of run up to the 141 mark and then start dipping down for a lower low. So just be very mindful of whatever pump we do get. It could be just a higher low and we can continue to start selling. So Amazon could be potentially another one. The biggest one here to really watch is the chips. NVIDIA, these things have really been struggling to break the 171 mark. Again, I tried to break right here, got rejected again today, rejected again. We don't want this to break the 155 mark. If it does break that, then you get the 20 EMA, which is sitting around the 138. So you're kind of looking for these bigger gaps if we do start to the downside, if that's what we do end up doing going in the next couple of days. Let's take a look at the value here. Big thing about BA is it had a lot of good news. It had this push up, but it has hit resistance. Now we could potentially start seeing some major selling back down to this 117 mark. We needs to really hold the 134 mark. If it breaks this mark, you're going to see that low again of the 119. So just be mindful of that. Watch that current level and see. Normally a break, you're going to get a retest, and if it doesn't bounce and start pushing, it's going to break and sell all the way back down to where it was at. So just keep BA on watch. Again, banks are big. Banks retesting from the bottom here. First retest, something I talked about, like you'll get like an initial like break, retest, and then sell. But on this first reattempt, you're going to get a hard rejection. It's hardly rejected here. But we could get another deeper sell-off here. So something to be very mindful of. Again, our bank earnings are just about 3 weeks away. So we definitely have to be careful. But banks will definitely take a hit depending what Powell says the next 2 days. Again, all the banks pretty much look the same. GS there, BAC there, same kind of push-up. Trying to retest some of these levels, a rejection, and then start selling potentially even more. So banks need to hold. Banks will be big to watch tomorrow. Commodities will be big to watch. Wheat, right? Wheat's actually been selling pretty heavy. Normally that's a good sign for a bullish catalyst to the upside. But you definitely have to be careful, because if by any chance this thing does start pushing back up, that's kind of your lead indicator along with the banks and their direction that there will be a sell-off in the overall index if wheat starts selling, fleet starts pushing and then the bank starts selling, that means your tech is not far behind before tech could potentially start selling off, and then your index will cave away from that point. So there's just a little bit of an insight into what's going on. I don't want to make this video too long. Again, still watching the same stuff. In this kind of market, you want to be watching the same stuff. You don't want to be chasing stuff. You want to be focused on what's going on, what the rotation going on. Watch those lead indicators in the morning. See where they're sitting, and then go make your judgment off of that. And again, if you're looking at tech for a boom, always look at your Teslas or Googles. Those ones typically lead first. And then value, it's normally BA or Airbnb is pretty good for value as well. And then you have the banks, but just keep an eye on those tomorrow. And moving into what Powell says, again, Powell will start talking right early tomorrow, right when the bell clicks off, and then he'll be 30 minutes later on Thursday. So very interesting time. Again, be mindful, be nimble. You don't need a lot to make a lot, especially when you get a lot of volatility in the markets. Best thing to do, again, is to try to survive and not try to force anything. You definitely don't want to be forcing anything in this market. So being said, take care, and I will see you guys on the field.